This is the G Word, the only internet talk show that does recur, does not deter, and is named after a slur. Subnautica 2 is finally coming into early access after a long wait, and the developers estimated it would be in early access for 2 years. I, personally, am going to pass on swimming around, collecting things, and scanning fish, but if you'd like to do that in an even less polished way, the option is there for you. Ubisoft has announced that they are not going to make the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake into an RPG. They promise. Whether or not you believe Ubisoft will live up to this promise is up to you, but Assassin's Creed Black Flag is the best Assassin's Creed game, so I just might play Resynced if No, I won't. Who am I kidding? I am so tired of remasters. NetherRealm's next game will be Injustice 3 according to recent rumors, and it'll look better than Injustice 2, I'm sure. I just hope to God that Sonic Fox doesn't find some way to exploit one character's ability over and over again and end up winning Evo with it. If you don't know, Sonic Fox won the Mortal Kombat 1 championship by spamming a single move by the character Cyrax over and over again in every round. On one hand, I'd recommend watching it because it's so shocking and such bad sportsmanship, but on the other hand, there is no other hand. It's guide time, which is everybody's favorite, where I pass on to you in summarized form all the guides I read today, so pay attention because it's going to be quick. How to get springy bamboo in the Springtime Floating Festival in Disney Dreamlight Valley. It is on the ground around the training camp. Teleport to the Springtime Floating Festival Island so you land at the well. From the well, head straight past the Tinkerbell Capybara. From the well, head straight past the Tinkerbell Capybara, walking right under the archway of Tinkerbell's house. Walk forward a few feet, then make a sharp right, heading toward the Mulan walled-off section. Go through the dark red archway with pink flowers blooming on it. Walk forward a few more feet to enter this area. Head right to find the training camp area. Look down on the ground by the training dummies, tents, and practice gear to find springy bamboo you can pick up. Best Blood Hunt Mood Knight build. Weapon. Scepter of Rights. Armor. Runic armor. Accessory. Alchemy amulet. An exclusive Pendant of Auster. Where to find fertilizer in Arc Raiders. Plant beds in a hydroponic dome complex on Dam Battlegrounds or Village on Bluegate. Where to find agave in Arc Raiders. On spiky plants on the hills bordering the dried riverbed in Riventides. Where to get water filters in Arc Raiders. Inside breachable metal crates in the power generation complex in the north of Dam Battlegrounds. And finally, how to fish in Diablo 4. Fishing essentially works as an emote for some reason, and you can find it from the emote wheel. Once activated, you can press any of your skill buttons to reel in a fish. Once it's reeled in, interact with the fish to add it to your inventory. 007 First Light previews have been released from various gaming outlets and YouTube channels, and the feedback is mixed. Some are saying it's too Uncharted, and some are saying it's too Hitman. Some think it's not enough James Bond, some think it's too much, and some think it's just right, like Goldilocks if she carried a Walther PPK. But here's the thing, and this is why we're talking about 007 First Light as our main topic today. Every single element described in all the previews I read and watched did not convince me that this isn't just another Hitman game called James Bond. The descriptions of the player's actions are no different than the possibilities in Thief Deadly Shadows, which came out in 2004. Martin Emborg, the Bond IP creative director for the game, was quoted saying, "I think we have about a couple hours of cinematics. A couple of hours. What is this, Kingdom Hearts? That's the last thing I want from any video game. And I'll be honest, I hate cutscenes. So take the criticism as you will, but I don't want to play a movie." One preview described the narrative as truly captivating, which I highly doubt. There are linear stealth sections that result in automatic failure upon being seen, but thankfully the checkpoints are generous. One quote says, "I could use a broken fax machine or radio to draw a target in. I can do that in every stealth game I've ever played. Interact with object. Guard comes over, knockout guard." Why is this being written about as if it's a novel or interesting thing? The player can also use an ability called Lure, which is no different from the whistle that calls guards over in dozens of stealth games in the last decade. Multiple paragraphs of previews and several minutes of videos describe what they think are different mechanics, but they're all just different ways of incapacitating or distracting guards because you have a gadget that lets you scan the environment and see through walls to get in the correct position. Would you like a whistling sound? Would you like to throw him down? Would you like to take his coat? Would you like to shoot his throat? Again, this is every stealth game ever. Distract the guard, go around him, knock out the next guard, and hide his body. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And lastly, there's a detection meter, because of course there is. And if that wasn't exciting enough, You can also vault over obstacles and sidle along a cliff. Why is that important? Why is that cool? I'm so fucking sick of sidling along cliffs slowly while the camera slowly pans, and I bet you can also transition from sidling by jumping to another cliff face where you sidle again. And I even bet there will be a cliff you can sidle by with two guards above it whose feet you can pull to throw them off the cliff. Another preview said, getting into a fistfight involves more than punching, dodging, and blocking, and there was a glimmer of hope within me until I realized that what they meant by more was that you can use the environment by slamming enemies into walls or throwing objects at them. I guess that's technically more than punching, but not by much. It continues, you can pick up bodies and hide them from view, which actually another person that played the preview said that you can't pick up or move bodies when they're unconscious, so I don't know if they have to be dead or what, but it did seem to kind of contradict itself a little bit. Not itself. These two previews seem to have experienced different things. In a slightly unique but still uninteresting observation, Bond can say quippy one-liners to people that suspect him to get them off his trail. Apparently, Bond quips a lot when you do things, and there seems to be mixed reactions to this, with some enjoying them, but if you're like me, you might wish there was an option to turn them off or power through. Credit to PC Gamer, though, for being the only publication to call out some of these flaws, at one point describing it as less sandbox, more multiple railways you can shunt between at will, and describe being unable to move unconscious bodies as remarkably archaic in a 2026 video game. Although they did point out that they thought it might be a bug. They also point out that subduing or even punching guards feet away from others did not trigger the guards to make any movement or respond at all to the incident. So we don't even have enough good AI for the guards to respond to something happening feet away from them. And then, like, another generic stealth game. Every preview that I read used the term open-ended and then described two options. The term open-ended design is used so much in these previews, but there doesn't seem to be any actual meaning to the open-ended part. There are multiple routes, previews say, and those multiple routes come in the form of an open window or an open skylight. That's a pretty generous interpretation of the form multiple, don't you think? You hear a guard complaining about the lack of security, hinting to the player where to go and what to do. How is that open-ended? In another example, in part of the preview, the player has quote-unquote two options, which are impersonate a journalist or impersonate a member of a private security team. Wow. How open-ended. This has been the G Word. Thank you for mopping. Fuck InMotion Hosting. Fuck Rob from Rob's Game Shack. Subscribe to the Patreon for exclusive content, daily newsletters, coverage of itch games, indie games that I highly recommend you should play, and just set more sassy opinions on gaming. And in the words of Hideki Kamiya, you deserve to die 1,000 deaths. May you be cursed to never play games again.